This is the very first family event that Jack has actually been on time. Laid back Jack had his own time clock. He did things when he got there. We all know he didn't rush. As I stand here today, I see a very full church. I see a lot of love, too. I'm certain that Jack can feel and appreciate the love that you have all brought here today to honor him. For the few of you who don't know me, I'm Paul, Jack's next brother, Dan's oldest son, Scott. Welcome, and on behalf of the family, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time and effort to be here today to honor John Lester Tierney, Jr., or Jack, as I know him. I'd like to take a moment to recognize and thank Most Reverend Bishop Thomas of Gumbleton for traveling all the way from Michigan to help us celebrate here today, as well as the clergy and staff of St. Teresa's. I know that your dedication and kindness means so much to my Aunt Pat, my grandmother Tierney, Catherine Tierney, his brothers Paul, Dick, Tim, Terry, and to all the Tierneys and Wasakis who have traveled from such a distance to be here with us today. Oh yes, and Bert. We haven't forgotten you, Bert. As we all know, Bert is an incarnation or a creation that Jack put together as a way for him to communicate through his teachings, through his love to children and adults alike. Jack was born on February 25th, 1945, into the post-World War II era. His father and namesake, John Lester Tierney, and Catherine Tierney had married in 1943, on Thanksgiving Day, in fact. My grandfather, often referred to as Lester, went into the service just 2 days later. They were separated during the 9 months that my grandfather spent in the military before being honorably discharged due to scoliosis, a condition that should have prevented him from going into the service in the first place. Catherine and Lester were married for 3 short years when these two lovely newlyweds celebrated the arrival of Jack into the world. And thus started what would be a large and very loving family of 6 boys and a lovely daughter, Maureen. In 1948, John and Kathy and their young family moved from the Mount Pleasant section of Providence to a newly built home at 446 Beveridge Hill Avenue, a home that Kathy Tierney continues to reside in today at the age of 97. As we all know well, the Tierney home on Beveridge Hill became a center of activity for all of Pawtucket, and always, always was crowded with children, young and old alike. The Tierney house was and is known far and wide as a place that everyone was welcome. Jack attended school here at St. Teresa's, and in fact was in the very first class when the school opened. At that time, St. Teresa's only had grades 1 through 5, but gradually the school grew and included grades 1 through 9, and Jack completed the 9th grade here at St. Teresa's. All 5 of Jack's brothers continued on after St. Teresa's with Catholic education at St. Raphael's Academy, but not Jack. His best friend, Dick Costa, who's here with us today, was going on to the local public high school, Tolman High, and Jack wanted to stay with his friend Dick, and so he decided to go to Tolman High School as well. In school, Jack was a very popular kid. He was known to be a snazzy dresser. He was tall, handsome, and extremely popular. His trademark wit and uncanny ability to make people laugh made him very popular with his classmates. He was the kid with a million friends. If you happen to run into Jack and his extremely close friend Don Morris, who's also here with us today, you are absolutely guaranteed to leave them both with your sides splitting with laughter. After high school, Jack didn't go right off to college. kicked around at a few odd jobs and began to feel that he wasn't really going anywhere in life. It was then that he, once again his friend Dick Costa, both went down to the recruiting station and enlisted in the Air Force. After high school, Jack remained in the service, completing his four-year stint and attained the rank of sergeant. With the Air Force, he was sent for training to Cape Cod, Biloxi, Missouri, and New Jersey. He served in Thailand and France during the Vietnam War. When he got out of the service in 1970, Jack came back home to find that the other Tierney boys, had moved on to attend college. My father, Paul, had graduated from Providence College. His brother, Dennis, was working his way through Providence College and was a junior. Tim was at what was then called the Rhode Island Junior College. Jack decided it was time for he too to do a little catching up and become educated. He enrolled at Rhode Island Junior College on a GI Bill with his brother Tim. One day, Tim and Jack were sitting around the dinner table at home, and Tim mentions to Jack that he should take a class that's being taught by a great new professor named Patricia Lasaki. Well, we all know where that went from here. Jack appeared in Pat's class at the community college, and as Pat describes it, she recalls seeing this young guy come swaggering in with a jean jacket on, and she thinks to herself, kind of looks like a hood. But he appeared to be nice enough, and so a casual acquaintance grew. Eventually, the casual acquaintance grew further, and the two became closer. Pat tells the story that sometime after they met, she invited Jack to her house in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. Jack goes up to the house, and the two of them were about to have dinner when a guy that Pat had dated a few years earlier, and really hadn't seen since, appears at the door. And he won't leave. So Pat, being gracious, invites him in for dinner. Now, here are Pat and Jack. They don't really know each other terribly well, and there's this person whom Pat hasn't seen in a while, who's now there at the house. They have dinner together. Now, to shake the guy, Pat and Jack make up a story that they're going to be going out to the movies. They even go as far as to go out and get in the car, and this finally convinces this third person that it's time for him to leave, and he does. The best part is that Pat and Jack then begin this wonderful relationship that has lasted for 42 years worth of marriage. Jack resumed his education at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst, where he earned a bachelor's degree in education and a master's in early childhood education and special education. Here's where you come over. It was in the School of Education at UMass that Jack developed his puppet show, Bert the Raccoon, which he put into practice his ideas of bringing nature to life for young children. As a puppeteer, he relayed information about nocturnal animals, the forest food chain, and tree identification using American Sign Language, storytelling, mime, and funny dialogue. His impressions of trees were priceless. His longtime puppet and companion Bert entertained and educated many, many kids and adults alike over the years. Jack was a great lover of the environment and nature. He loved long walks on the beach and was an avid bird watcher. Jack also applied his energy and creative skills to his work with children with autism and intellectual disabilities at the Groden Center, the Cove Center in Providence, and as an outreach teacher at the Hitchcock Center for the Environment in Amherst, Mass. He was an extraordinary teacher, beloved by his students, and he continued to stay in touch with them throughout the years. In malls at Christmas time, Jack often brought to life what he was described as the signing Santa. He was able to communicate with children with hearing disabilities by both being Santa Claus and using sign language as well. Jack was an endearing person with a loving and playful spirit. Never one to be in a rush, however, Jack throughout his life, when at his own speed, used that intelligence and a natural ability to read people to come up with just the right line that made you laugh. He was the one to always remember everyone's name, along with the last conversation they shared. Jack had an uncanny ability to remember the uniqueness of each person he met. And, don't you know it, the next time you met him, he'd ask you detailed questions about the conversation that you had left off with last. When Jack did shows with Bert here, he would invite each kid to come up and touch Bert and interact with him. In this way, he made each member of the audience, child and adult alike, feel a connection with the message that he was trying to convey, a message that was often about the environment. Jack did shows as he and Pat traveled, and travel they did. They visited all 50 states in the United States. They traveled to Alaska, Egypt, Peru, Colombia, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Mexico, Canada, Italy, France, Belgium, Nova Scotia, Vancouver, all of Europe, and many more places. Jack and Pat were lucky to travel the world together, and they were lucky to have each other. Theirs was a loving and long-lasting marriage. Jack will always be remembered by those who knew him for his characteristic flannel shirts, his beard and mustache. Man, that guy had a lot of hair. His love of reading the newspaper, his walking sticks, his love for so many dogs throughout the years that he and Pat opened their home to. His friends and family gathered here will always remember the good times. Time spent during his younger years in Provincetown as a young, free-spirited hippie. Time spent at the Sugar Shack, a small apartment in Providence, where young, free souls could enjoy time away from society. A product of growing up in the 60s and 70s, Jack and his friends spent a lot of time enjoying, let me say, the finer things in life. And he enjoyed them freely. Tough times began in May when Jack was diagnosed with esophageal cancer. A tough one, but he was focused on healing, and Pat, his ever advocate, took over the role of fierce supporter, healthcare advocate, chief question asker, planner, and troubleshooter. 3 months ago, Jack's surgery to remove his primary tumor didn't go as well as anyone expected. He faced a lot of setbacks. South Kingstown Nursing Home became his home. He wasn't fond of the whole thing, but he kept on going, and the visits with family and friends kept his spirits up always. Every visit, every kind word, the laughs, and even the tears towards the end told Jack just how much we loved him. The nurses at South County Hospital told us when we were there that they never saw so many visits, nor so much love. And that includes all of Jack's friends. You know, there are a lot of you out there. It's in sad times when you are blessed, that you are blessed with love and kindness. Jack felt the love, and so did Pat. Thank you. I don't know much about American Sign Language, but Jack did try to teach me one bit of sign language. And this involves audience participation. So at this point, I'm going to ask you all to try this. So that if Jack can give us one bit of sign language, it's this. It's when you say you're happy. Just when you give us a try. You guys can do this. It's not meant to be a sad thing. It's meant to be a happy thing. Jack? It's a happy. Jack kept a small clipping from the newspaper in his favorite Altoids tin. On that, he carried with him everywhere. The saying says, "It is not an indulgence to do what makes your soul sing. It's a necessity. Explore your heart's content now." Jack, we know your soul is singing